Okay. All right, we are on YouTube. Okay.
Honor. Investigator Kennedy, over our brief, our break, did you have a chance to review your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I think the last thing I had asked was regarding the weight of the suspected methamphetamine. Do you, after reviewing your report, do you recall what that weight was?
Yes, ma'am. That weight was 588.77 grams, approximately. I can't.
You
Sport,
said
that's
it,
just a scale that we use.
wait, you said it was approximately, what was that amount again?
Hold on, I'm trying to. Oh, 158 points. So, but I can't, with the scale, I can't say if that was an exact amount. That was approximate.
Okay. And just so we're clear, were you the person who weighed that, or were there other officers there who weighed that?
I waited.
Okay. And but just so I'm clear, but there were other officers who were there that indicated that based on
Yeah,
their training and experience that they believe the substance to be meth.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But
And
I can't say, you know, that's why I say it's a white crystal-like substance.
okay. And that white crystallite substance has been submitted to the crime lab
Yes.
for testing. Okay. Now, you also charged Mr. Edge with possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And was there a weapon located in the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am. It was in the
And
driver's.
I'm sorry?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the weapon located?
In the driver's seat.
It was under the driver's seat or in the driver's seat? I didn't hear.
In the driver's seat.
Now, when you say in the driver's seat, was it just sitting on the seat, or where? Explain that to us when you say it was in the driver's seat.
It was just there sitting on the seat.
Could you tell us whether or not Mr. Edge had been sitting in that same seat?
Yes, ma'am. He was sitting on the gun.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Hello. Can you hear me?
It's a little shaky. Okay.
Okay. Yes, yeah. It was in the driver's seat. It looked like he was sitting on the gun. It appeared to be like he was sitting on the gun to me.
Oh, was this a loaded handgun?
Yes, ma'am.
Did this take place in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
I have no further questions.
Ross?
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Kennedy, you said you got an anonymous tip. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you actually receive the tip?
No, sir.
Okay. And were you told by another Sheriff's Department sworn officer that the tip was anonymous?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you had no reason to believe that that was an informant that had called, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, when you said that you had patrol look for the truck in the Museum Circle area, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who saw it first?
Our lieutenant saw it first.
And who was that lieutenant?
Lieutenant Allen.
And where did Lieutenant Allen first see it?
We saw it right at the 2nd and 3rd Street.
Was that at lot C-23?
Yes, sir. I want to
Okay.
say.
And had the vehicle moved, did Lieutenant Allen tell you that the vehicle was parked or not?
It was unclear. He just said, I have the vehicle right here. Come meet me over here. And we all drove to that area, to that spot. And we saw
All
it.
right, now let's go back to we all. Who is we
Yes, sir.
all? Who is we
Just-
all?
Everybody in the unit. So it was Lieutenant Allen, Sergeant Jones, Investigator Ahmad, myself. I think that's all we had that day.
You said investigator who and then yourself?
Ahmad.
Okay, so it would have been 4 of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so only 4 of you ever went over there, is that correct?
To apprehend him, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to see
Okay,
our
Now.
team.
when you first saw the vehicle, what was it doing?
It was just there. It was just
It was
parked
just
there.
there,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Just parked
And was it on the driveway there or the roadway? Or was it in one of those
No.
little stub drives that goes up to a mobile home?
It was like it was just parked in front of the house. It wasn't on the roadway or anything like that. It was just parked in front of the house. I don't think the house had a driveway.
Okay,
I can't recall.
you can't recall where it was parked. Now, when
I
you
can't
first
recall.
saw it,
No,
Huh?
no, I can't recall if the house had a driveway. I know he wasn't parked as if the car was in the driveway.
you know it wasn't parked in the driveway?
I know it wasn't parked as if that was pulled into the yard.
Okay, so there is a road that actually is in front of and one on the side of C-23, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which one of those, to the front of C-23 or to the side, was it parked?
So it's roads that go horizontal and it's roads that go vertical. His car was coming away from the horizontal road towards the vertical road.
Okay, and it was on one of those roads, correct?
No, it was in the yard.
In the yard, okay.
Yes.
And did you see anyone get into or out of that vehicle?
No, sir. Just him.
Just him? Did you hear of anyone else? Did any of these other 3 tell you about seeing anyone get into or get out of that vehicle?
No, sir.
Did you run a registration on the vehicle?
Yes, sir. That was previous investigation. We knew it was a rental car.
Okay, and to whom was it rented?
It was my understanding that it was rented to him.
And where did you gain that understanding?
Well, as a team, we all get that information. We just put it all together, and they said that, actually, he was driving the car, I think 2 nights before, and got into a chase with Lovejoy. So that's why we was looking for him initially.
Wait a minute, he got into a chase 2 nights before?
That was my understanding. So that's why he was wanted by us initially.
But there's no warrants for any pursuit or anything like that, are there?
Yes, it should be.
It should be, okay?
Yes, sir.
And so you knew 2 nights before that that vehicle was in a chase and the information that it belonged to EAL Holdings LLC, I suppose, was ascertained by the Sheriff's Department, correct?
I'm kind of unclear with that. Most of the time when we get warrants as fugitives, it's like was this guy. He was driving this car. He's the one address is this, and then we investigated from there.
What guy jumped that car?
What's that?
What guy jumped that car?
What guy jumped the car? I don't understand.
You said you'll get information that, like, you know, that this guy jumped that car, and here's what it is.
I said no. He drives that car. Drives.
Okay.
Drives.
All right, that he drives that car. So you don't know whether or not there was a chase a couple of days before, do you?
My lieutenant responded to the chase.
He responded to the chase.
Yes.
All right.
Tried to assist. So,
okay. And now you saw the vehicle parked in the yard yourself, correct?
yes, sir.
You were in a car alone or accompanied?
I was alone.
All right. And when you got there, did you see Lieutenant Allen's vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And at the point you drove up and first saw the red car, the Red Ranger, was there anyone in it?
No, sir.
No. And you kept the Ranger under observation all the time until, all right, when did Justin Wayne Edge come out and get in that car?
He was already in the car.
He was already in the car.
Yes, sir. And we took him out of the car.
When you just testified, Investigator Kennedy, that he was not in the car when you first saw the car. Is that correct?
Sir, he was on the way to my vehicle when I got there. So I drove up. Can you hear me? Hello?
Are you still driving, Deputy Kennedy?
I'm not driving.
Okay. But it may affect our ability to hear you because you're moving, and so you're going.
Okay. So I might have to pull over.
I think Mr. Martin may be frozen.
Okay. He did say that he may freeze.
Right. I think he's frozen. Give us 1 second, investigator. I think Mr. Martin is frozen.
And he's gone. Let me see if he's going to try to come back in.
There he is.
Oh, great.
Your Honor, I have no earthly idea what just happened, and I apologize.
No, it's okay. You just kind of froze. You weren't moving.
Believe me. I'm sorry. Could I go back and repeat the
last
question I remember asking, Your Honor?
Please.
Investigator Kennedy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. You testified that when you first laid eyes on the car, there was no one in the car, correct?
Yes, Justin Edge was coming to my car. They took over the car. They took over the car. I was on the street. They was taking over the car. He came out of the car and they walked into my car.
Okay, wait just a second. The first time you saw the car, the Red Ranger, was there anyone in the Red Ranger?
No, sir. He was coming towards me in handcuffs.
So they had already gotten him out of the car.
Yeah, he was walking. He was just getting out of the car, walking towards me. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you weren't standing up there when the bags fell out, correct? You were sitting in your car.
No, sir. No, I was driving up. Yes, sir.
You were driving up. You didn't see the gun laying in the seat when he got his behind off the gun, did you?
Well, it was on the phone. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Did you smell that marijuana? You said you've been trained that huh?
Yes, sir.
You did. Okay.
Yes,
you said you weighed it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, there was about 32 minutes from the time you put in your report until the time you took the warrants. What scales did you use to weigh that methamphetamine and that marijuana? Investigator Kennedy.
He had some scales in his back seat. I used that to, get an estimate. Then I backed it up when I took it back to the office.
Okay. Now, did you search the car yourself?
We all searched it.
Okay. We all searched it. Who went through that car first?
First, we was all at the same time.
4 of you searched that car at the same time?
No, just me and Sergeant Jones.
Just you and Sergeant Jones?
Yes, sir.
Who took the front seat?
Sergeant Jones.
Who took the back seat?
I took the back seat, but I was going back and forth between the back seat and the front seat.
If he was covering the front seat, why'd you need to go up there?
It was different sides of the car.
Okay, so which side were you on?
We're going back and forth, back checking each other. So I started driver's side to the that door to the rear. He was on the passenger side, and then we just switched sides.
Did you ever find a makeup bag in there?
I can't recall.
You can't recall. Did you see Sergeant Jones pull a makeup bag out?
I did.
You didn't. Did you find small sandwich bags in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and where did you find them?
I think they were behind the driver's seat.
You think that? But there was nobody in the back seat, is that correct?
That's correct.
And who told you that there was no one in the back seat?
I didn't see anybody in the back seat.
So you never asked anybody whether there were other people in that car, Investigator Kennedy, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
Were you standing there and have a radio with a speaker on your shoulder or in your ear?
Was I standing there with a radio?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Could you hear that radio?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear anyone else on Museum Circle check a wanted on Benjamin Zachary Spence, giving his date of birth?
I can't recall.
You can't recall. Did you see a white male standing over there near the car being detained?
No, sir.
Did you hear anyone run a history on Christy Victoria Miller and see if she was wanted?
No, sir. I didn't hear that.
Did you see a white female standing over there detained?
No, sir.
Did you or anyone else go up to C-23 and find out who lived there and what Justin Edge was doing there?
We gave it was some baby toys in the car. I think my lieutenant asked Mr. Edge, did he know the people in that house? He said yes, and he asked him, did he want them to get the toys because he knew we had to tow the car. So we gave them the toys. Yes, sir. Okay.
And to your knowledge now, well, first of all, there's no audio or video recordings by anyone in that arrest sequence. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Now, I note, sir, that your report case number ends in 841. Since you've been sent your report, is that correct?
It ends in 841?
Yes, sir. Your case number ends in the last 3, 841. Is that correct?
I can't recall that, sir.
Well, if it's on your report, would it be true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I note that on your affidavit for an arrest warrant, you list a police case number is 010. Now, is there another case and another report written by the Clayton County Sheriff's Department about this arrest of Justin Wayne Edge on Museum Circle on April the 16th?
1 second.
No.
I don't even have, 1 second. Do you have that? Do you have access to that, ADU Freeman?
I have a copy of the warrantless arrest affidavit. I do have that. If we need to screenshot it and send it to him, because before I just sent him a copy of his
Absolutely.
report.
Send
Okay.
send that to your witness.
Okay, give me 1 second.
All right.
Your Honor, if I may, during this lull, may I advise Mr. Edge of my agreement with Ms. Freeman to waive all closing arguments?
Well, I don't have an objection with that.
That's fine.
Yeah, thank you.
That's fine.
Justin, Ms. Freeman and I have agreed that we're just going to stand on the evidence and waive closing arguments. Just wanted to tell you that. Thank you.
Investigator Kennedy, when you get the
Yes,
information, would you just let us know? I believe Investigator Ponder just text it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right, Deputy Kennedy, do you see, besides your employee number 23,100, do you see a police case number that you've written there?
Yes, sir.
What is that number?
Those are case numbers we get on the street. So from dispatch, it marks the year, the number of the day as far as tracking it from day 1 to day 365, and then how many cases were made in that day, or how many case numbers were taken in that day starting at midnight.
So the 911 center gives you those, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then when you put your, okay. Sorry.
All right, now, Just 1 second, Your Honor. It does not, that number does not refer at all to the police PD case number upon which the original warrants were issued. It doesn't.
No, no, sir.
Okay.
From Lovejoy?
Well, no,
no.
From Lovejoy, no. All right. Now, did you interview Justin Edge?
No, sir.
Did anybody in your presence interview Justin Edge?
No, sir.
Did you transport Justin Edge to the jail?
No, sir.
Are you aware of anyone who interviewed or any statement other than about baby toys that Justin Edge made?
No, sir.
Are there any other, and I want to once again refer to your report where you wrote that the fugitive units overwhelmed the vehicle in which Mr. Edge peacefully surrendered.
Yes, sir.
If you first saw him being led back, how do you know that he peacefully surrendered?
Because he was taken into custody with no issues.
Told you that?
Well, they all told me that.
They all told you that.
Yes,
now,
sir.
There were a total of 4 Sheriff's Department personnel there. Is that what you referred to as the overwhelming presence when he peacefully surrendered?
Yes, sir. I pulled up as he was coming out of the car.
Okay. And who was on that side of the car? On the driver's side of the car? What deputies?
I can't recall, sir.
You can't recall? Do you remember any deputies on the other side of the car?
Deputies?
Fugitive unit personnel. Anybody overwhelming the right side of the car?
When we take a vehicle or anything, we have every angle covered. So we have somebody on the one side, somebody on the other side, and somebody probably in the rear somewhere, ready to take him into handcuffs. And now, who was where? I can't recall that.
Now, deputy, and as you pulled up, you could see the entire rear of the Ford Ranger, correct?
No, I can see the front of it.
You could see the front of it, so you could see the entire front, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Do you have any redirect?
No, Your Honor. No redirect.
Okay. Any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So you agreed to not do argument?
Yes, Your Honor. Both of us did. Just ask you to consider it, what you have heard and haven't.
Both cases?
Yes, Your Honor, please.
So the first case that was made by Malate, I do find probable cause for both of those charges. This case is challenging. Even without argument, it's challenging. Even without argument. I can't understand it. I don't know if it's Attorney Martin's brilliant cross-examination or if it's just not clear.
I take credit for nothing, Your Honor.
I don't find probable cause for any 3 of these charges. Just don't. I can't find probable cause for any 3 of these charges. Case is dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Cheryl, y'all have a great day.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deputy Kennedy.
I see Attorney Adams. Did you get a chance to read my email? Oh, Deputy, you can be excused. Thank you.
Okay.
Are we going to start the hearing now with, or do you need to speak with Attorney Adams?
Well, I'm not sure. Attorney Adams, you tell me. I think you're still muted. You're still muted. We can't hear you. You got to take yourself off of mute. We can't hear you.
Should I start YouTube? Do we have to have any conversation for a second?
Attorney Adams, we can't hear you. You still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You
So we
can?
were asking, did you want to go ahead and do the hearing, or did you need to speak with me at all?
I think we need to go ahead with the hearing. I think I did get your email, and
Okay.
so I think that's conveyed that offer before. Yeah. That's
Okay,
fine.
just wanted to make sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to stay on YouTube. All right, we'll go ahead and swear in Deputy Detective Fleming. Go ahead and swear in. Do you swear from the information you give, any testimony provide in the matter of State versus Trayvon Gordon is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so you God?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay.
Detective, please tell us your name and how you're employed.
I'm Detective Fleming. I'm employed by the Clayton County Police Department.
How long have you worked with the Clayton County Police Department?
Approximately 6 years.
And Detective, was there an occasion where you had the occasion to investigate a case involving Trayvon Gordon?
Yes, ma'am.
And what type of case is that?
It's a street level armed robbery case, what we call pedestrian robbery.
And was this an armed robbery that allegedly occurred, let's see, on March 16th of 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
And please tell us what your investigation revealed that happened involving Mr. Gordon.
The initial investigation was conducted by the Uniform Division of the Clayton County Police Department. They responded to a call for service of 3 females that got robbed by a group of individuals. The females were able to give the description of the vehicle and the description of the offenders. Clayton County Police Department Uniform Division arrived at the location in Riverdale, which the incident occurred in Clayton County, and made contact with the victims and was able to receive the information. The officer relayed that information to a radio dispatch of the description of the vehicle, the items that was taken, and possible DOT, what we call direction of travel. A uniformed officer was conducting a proactive patrol trying to locate this vehicle and observed in the corner of her eye a trash bag being thrown at the car. The officer observed that the matching description of that was given by the uniformed officer, Willis, was indeed the vehicle that was in front of her. That officer, Mercedes Ward, radioed on Clayton County Communication for additional officers to arrive at that location. A felony takedown was conducted, and all the individuals inside the vehicle, including Mr. Trayvon Gordon, were apprehended and detained at the scene. My investigation revealed that the Uniform Division continued the investigation by bringing the 3 victims towards the scene and was able to do a live lineup. All 3 victims were able to identify all individuals inside the vehicle as the individuals that robbed them of their cell phone, purses, their Waffle House food, money. One of the females was pistol whipped by a male, which is not Trayvon Gordon. However, she did indicate that Trayvon Gordon took an item from her. I believe it was her purse. Once these individuals were placed in custody, A search of the vehicle was conducted. They observed items belonging to the victim. It was at that time they decided, you know what, let's not search this vehicle. Let's take this vehicle to the Benton County Police Department, where now the investigation began. Uh, I was contacted by Lieutenant Smithwick to arrive at Clayton County Police Department headquarters to conduct an interview. Part of my interview I've conducted was with all the offenders except the juvenile. Some offenders didn't want to talk to me. Some offenders did want to talk to me. One of them is going to be Trayvon Gordon. Myself and Detective Sharp conducted the interview of Mr. Gordon. We Mirandized him. He waived his rights for counsel and agreed to speak with us. During the interview, I discovered that for Trayvon Gordon, that he was there at the scene of the crime. However, he was not involved in the crime. He stated that he was very good friends with Mr. Obinali, who was a co-defendant in this case, who's the individual that had the handgun and pistol whipped one of the females. One of the things I do as a gang investigator is I always ask for Instagram names of the individuals I interview. Mr. Gordon provided me with an Instagram with the BC_KXNG. What kind of brought my attention as a gang investigator is the letter X and Z under one word. King is always spelled with an I, but immediately you notice the X was indication to me with my gang training that this was a blood language that a lot of the blood members of the criminal street gang like to use their language. Then I asked him, Mr. Gordon, I said, Mr. Gordon, are you affiliated with any gang? He stated that he has no affiliation with any gang. Then at that point, after asking that question about gangs, he refused to cooperate and stated that he wished to speak with a lawyer. At that time, I seized the interview and exited the room and let the investigation ask what the uniform division had. At that time, I still didn't have enough for a gang charge, because it did require some additional information or investigation, rather. Counselor, I'd like to note that during my investigation of Mr. Gordon, I was conducting what we call surveillance on Instagram of his friends. One of his friends posted a picture of Mr. Gordon throwing the blood criminal street gang hand sign and said, "Free my will ones." Coincidentally, counsel, all the individuals that were involved in the armed robbery were in the picture as well. All of them were in red, all of them during their gang hand signs, which I was immediately recognized as Rolling 20's Neighborhood Bloods, which is the predominantly West Coast African American gang out of California. Knowing that these individuals were conducting an armed robbery together as a gang to increase their stature, I automatically was able to obtain arrest warrants for their gang charges, with additional charges of aggravated assault that the Uniform Division did not place on Mr. Gordon and his co-defendants.
Detective Fleming, let's go back some. The vehicle that that Mr. Gordon and the other individuals where they were located, were the items that were taken, or what? Just tell what all was found in that car or on their person.
All right. One of the interesting things that was found on their persons when the individuals were taken out was nothing, but inside the vehicle where they were placed at, the victims, which we were able to bring to headquarters. Let me back up a little bit. Got a search warrant for the vehicle. We found red bandanas, a handgun, and a revolver. The revolver was a toy gun. We also found the victims' IDs, their purses, their cell phones. I believe it was approximately $325 or $375 of cash was also located inside the vehicle, which is consistent with what the victim stated was taken from them.
Did any of the victims, were they able to, any of them able to recall if any of these defendants made any statements to them during the incident?
I believe one of the words was like, "Bitch, give me your money or you die. I'm gonna fucking kill you." Excuse my French. Why they placed a handgun in front of the females. One of the victims, like I stated earlier in my testimony, was pistol whipped by one of the co-defendants of Mr. Gordon's friend, who we believe was Mr. Obinali. They were all able to identify each and every member of their vehicle that robbed them, and also stated what Mr. Gordon's role was, where he took the purse away from the victim.
Detective, if you can recall, did one of these defendants, were they the registered owner of the vehicle that was found?
Yes, the individual that owned the vehicle, it was a juvenile. It belonged to his mother. The juvenile was also arrested at the scene, and the mother arrived at headquarters and retrieved the vehicle. It was turned over to her after the search warrant with a copy of the search warrant. That juvenile individual was taken to Martha Glaze, RYDC, with the same charges as his co-defendants.
Did any of these defendants make any statements regarding their actions on this regarding this incident?
Yes, one of the individuals made a statement, and he was very apologetic. He was very, apologized for the statement, saying that his life is over. He didn't mean to do that. Another co-defendant, Mr. Hernandez, was also able to be very apologetic for his role for the armed robbery. Also, what's interesting about Mr. Hernandez, the co-defendant, he took Detective Santos back to the scene and was able to retrieve a purse that was thrown out of the vehicle used in the warrant. In the robbery. I apologize.
Just so we're clear, there were three young ladies who were the victims in this incident. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And did they indicate as to whether or not all of these defendants were there together during the entire incident?
At first, it indicated that only two approached them. And then after the pistol whipping, rest of the defendants of the vehicle approached them as well. And this when the robbery of taking their items was conducted.
Was Mr. Gordon, and I believe you stated this, I just want to be clear because I know we have a lot of charges, but was Mr. Gordon positively identified by all three victims as being part of this incident?
Yeah, that's correct. He was.
One second. And I know there were numerous charges for participation in criminal gang activity. Was that because of all of the other charges associated with the case?
Yes, all the charges are associated with this case.
And Detective, you talked about your training, your experience. Could you please tell us what your training experience involves, what it involves regarding gangs?
Certainly. My training as a gang investigator with the Clayton County Police Department, I received the 80-hour course of the basic gang investigation course that was provided by Post. Also, I'm a member in good standing with the Georgia Gang Investigation Association. I have received training from them in regards to intermediate and advanced training in gang investigations. I also participate in monthly meetings, what we call Southside Gang meetings, which is post hours are obtained by obtaining intelligence on how to conduct better in gang investigation, interview aspects of gang investigations, and this trainings continuously yearly.
Did any of the young ladies who were victims in this incident, did any of them sustain any injuries as a result of what happened?
I apologize for cutting you up. Yes, one that was pistol whipped. She was treated at the scene by Clayton County emergency personnel. I believe she got a small band-aid on her head, and she was treated and released at the scene.
Did all of these take place in Clayton County?
Yes.
And just because I just can't recall, where did the victims indicate that the armed robberies took place?
It took place on the between the road of Highway 85 and Crystal Lake area. They hadn't had a specific address. It was on the street. Like I said in the beginning of my testimony, it was a street pedestrian robbery. So there was not a specific address, but this incident occurred in the city of Riverdale in the county of Clayton County.
I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
your witness.
Thank you, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Let me just clarify a few things. What was the description of the vehicle? What did you get?
I was not hearing there for the description of the vehicle, but I believe the description was the blue SUV, large SUV was the description that was given on the radio, I believe, according to the officer's report.
And that was the vehicle you pulled over?
Excuse me?
That's the vehicle you pulled over, stopped?
I did not pull the vehicle over. This vehicle was pulled over by the Clayton County Uniform Division.
Okay, so you didn't have any involvement in it?
No, sir. I did not have any involvement with the initial part of the investigation of the traffic stop in the lineup, sir.
Clarify one more thing for me. You indicated that on the initial search, y'all did not find anything. I believe I heard that. But then when you searched it again, you found some purses and other things.
When I mentioned the initial search, sir, it's basically when we do a felony stop, we handcuff, we search their persons, make sure there's no weapons and items. At that time, according to the Uniform Division report, they didn't find any evidence linking them to the crime. However, in plain view, they observed the victim's purses and their cell phones inside that vehicle that was used in their armed robbery, sir.
Okay. You testified that one of the victims said that Mr. Gordon had nothing, did not participate in the beating or all that, but he did participate in taking a purse. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Is that his main involvement?
That was his involvement in the armed robbery, was snatching her purse while handguns were presented to the victims.
Did Mr. Gordon have a gun or anything? You know what?
I can't testify if he had a gun on him that day. According to the witness, he was not the individual who placed the handgun at the victims. However, he is the one that took the purse from the victim while they were in placing gunpoint.
Okay. And you indicated that after you interviewed Mr. Gordon, I'm not sure when this interview took place, but you testified that at that time you didn't have enough evidence for gang charges. Right? Is that correct?
That's correct. This also, I'd like to clarify for you, Counselor, the interview did take place at Clayton County Police Department for audio and video recording, sir.
Okay, and he told you he had no affiliation with gangs. Is that correct?
That is correct, Counselor.
But so explain to us again how you connected to a gang and what gang activities did he participate and so forth.
Good question, Counselor. So when they all were taken to Clayton County Jail for the initial armed robbery, with his Instagram page, I conducted an investigation on his Instagram page. At that time, I discovered a tag that had his name in it, stating for him and all the co-defendants that were arrested in this armed robbery together, throwing up the criminal hand sign of the blood, Rolling 20s criminal street gang, wearing red. I found multiple pictures of Mr. Gordon with gang stands, gang bandanas, gang signs, gang language that will indicate that he is a member of the Rolling 20s neighborhood Bloods.
Where did you see this?
Counselor, I was able to observe this in the Instagram page that belonged to Mr. Gordon.
Did you show this tape to Mr. Gordon?
Pardon, sir?
Did you show it to Mr. Gordon? Did he look at it?
Yes, I'm very 100%. Yes, positively identified him. That's Mr. Gordon.
Okay. No other questions, John?
All right, any redirect?
No, Your Honor, state rest.
Okay, all right. Any other witnesses for the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, argument,
State waives opening.
counselor?
Yeah, as far as the gang activities go, he's lying on an Instagram that was put up by, I think, I'm not sure who, but we do not believe that's enough evidence. There's no profile showing him being a member of a gang, as they keep records pretty clear. So we'd ask all the charges related to gang activities to be dismissed. As far as the armed robbery goes, it seems like there's two incidents involved. First, when the two individuals approached, pointing guns or did something to the victims. And at some point thereafter, Mr. Gordon arrived. I do not show, they show he was a party to the crime except for not the armed robbery, but it showed snatching the purse. We'd ask that armed robbery charges be dismissed also.
All right. 88 Freeman?
Thank you, Your Honor. We're asking that all charges be bound over to Superior Court. I'll begin with the gang charges. Detective Fleming testified as to his training and his experience regarding gangs and gang activity. He testified as to being able to review the Instagram page of Mr. Gordon. He was positively identified as that being Mr. Gordon. He testified as to pictures or shots of Mr. Gordon with the other members, the other co-defendants, flashing gang symbols, and as well as what items that were found in the car. I believe he testified as to bandanas that were found. And so we believe it's certainly sufficient to tie Mr. Gordon to the gang activity. The other charges, Your Honor, we believe the testimony from Detective Fleming is sufficient for probable cause. He may not have been the one with the actual gun, but he participated in the armed robbery as one of the defendants held the gun. He certainly took the property. These were three young ladies who were on the street and who were approached by these defendants, and their items were taken, with one of the victims being pistol whipped and injured. When all of these individuals were found, including Mr. Gordon, they were positively identified, as well as the items of the victims were located in the vehicle where Mr. Gordon and his co-defendants were found. So we were asking that all charges be bound over.
All right. I find that there is probable cause for all 14 of these charges are all going to be bound over.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Detective Fleming.
Yeah, thank you. And my permission to be released.
Yes.
Have an awesome day.
You too.
Yes, sir.
All right. So Lopez Wright. Thank you, counselor.
Thank you.
All right. I think Lopez Wright is next.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm getting the officers to lodge in.
Your Honor, may I please make an announcement?
Yes.
On Corey Baker, that's going to be a hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I have Lopez Wright is next. I have Jason Baker is after that.
That's correct.
Gleaton, which is after that. Then I have Jason Baker.
Well, I think Jason Baker is after Lopez Wright. Right.
There's Corey Baker. Jason Baker, right. Corey Baker is after that.
Yes.
And that should, and then I've got Mayo.
Your Honor.
What happened with Mayo?
Right, that was the case where I announced we were asking for a one-time continuance because that officer is no longer with, let's see, which department was that?
Do they have to stand that close to each other? What's going on with this?
Well, I think for them to be in the view for us to see, they would have to be closer, but that was the case, Your Honor.
I'm
where
kind of concerned about the whole social distancing
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
And if they're not gonna wear their mask, they don't need to be that even. We need to do something different than this. Is it possible for one to be in this? Okay, that works. Thank you. That's a little bit better. Thank you. Okay.
and we're just waiting for Deputy Bradford to log in.
Okay.
Cheryl, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You remember Sandy Andre, right? The young lady who's deaf?
Yes.
Do you remember who that case is going to be assigned to judge-wise? Did you know that?
I don't. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick while we're waiting for Deputy Bradford. What's her last name again, Brandon?
Andre, I think it's Andre.
I know it's courtroom 11. So I'm trying to remember who that is. But it's
You said courtroom 11?
11. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can figure that out. Thanks.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And Deputy Bradford was driving. He's pulling over now to log in.
All right. I'm watching to see when Bradford logs in. I'm right here.
Okay. And Brandon, it looks like courtroom 11 is Judge Mack.
Judge Mack. Okay, thank you.
He's still not in. I don't see him coming in. I'm watching.
Okay.
Y'all see the screen right here that says participants?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's not even logging in yet. Nope. All right, if y'all want to step off, I don't know. We've been doing this since 8 this morning. If anybody needs, you have Attorney Lewis, but Ms. Attorney Freeman and I have. So I'm going to stop the video. Oh, there's Bradford. I'm going to step off for about 5 minutes and I'll be right back. I'm letting him in. If you want to take 5 minutes, Ms. Freeman, I'm not sure. You've been sitting there. I know.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Bradford, we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Bradford, they took a 5-minute break. They'll be right back.
Okay.
the beeping sound?
That's my car, Judge. I'm driving.
Oh, I was like, in the world?
I've got my phone sitting down on the center console. I'm trying to go to work.
I suggest you pull over, sir.
Whenever you're ready, I'll stop, Judge.
We're ready now.
All right, I'm pulling over.
Thank you, sir. I thought I saw you do. Is Attorney Adams still on here?
I think he is.
I think he wandered into that library.
The library seems to be the remote office. Is anyone else going in there or using that as their base, or should I just let them out?
I think they're done because I don't. I was looking to see if unless because I know he is on the calendar for Friday, and so I'm not sure if Attorney.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna. I won't let him out because I think it took a minute for them to get in there.
Right.
So leave him alone.
I'm just not sure. He may have wanted to ask about that.
All right, I'll leave them there. All right, let's go ahead and swear Officer Bradford. Let me, can you get video on yourself, please? Wow, what a day this has been.
I'm pulled over.
I was trying
to get to the side of the road.
Okay, very good. Let me swear you in.
All right.
Do you swear from the information given, a testimony you provide in the matter of the state versus Raymond Lopez and the state versus Will Wright is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Deputy Bradford, would you please tell us your name and how you're employed?
Deputy Kyle Bradford with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office?
Since September of last year.
Were you working with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office on April 29th of 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
On that particular day, were you patrolling the area of Forest Parkway?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that particular day, as you were patrolling the area, was there something that happened involving something that struck your car?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us what happened with that.
I was on Forest Parkway, and there was a red Nissan Altima in front of me with the Arizona tag. While I was driving behind the vehicle, the driver of the vehicle hung his arm out the window and threw a cigarette that struck my vehicle.
And what did you do after you saw that this cigarette struck your vehicle?
I followed the vehicle a little bit further down the road. I initiated my lights and sirens, at which time the vehicle touched the brakes, and I observed the brake light being out, the driver's side brake light also being out on the vehicle. And the vehicle pulled over at the in a gas station on the corner of West Street and Main Street.
Who was the driver of that car?
Raymond Lopez.
Were there any passengers in the car with Mr. Lopez?
Yes, ma'am. Carmen Torres and Will Wright. Carmen Torres was sitting in the front passenger seat, and Will Wright was in the back seat.
After the vehicle stopped, what did you do?
I made contact with Mr. Lopez. He got his driver's license. While speaking with him, I could smell a strong odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle. So I went ahead and called for another officer to be en route, so that way we could get everybody out of the vehicle and search the vehicle.
And Deputy Bradford, how were you able to determine that that was an odor of marijuana?
I've been to multiple controlled burns. I've made hundreds of marijuana cases since becoming a police officer. I've been exposed to it in controlled burns where it was green, raw, and burned.
About how many other deputies arrived?
Well, I called for one of my deputies because I was the supervisor on morning watch, but actually Forest Park Police Department showed up first. I think 2 of their officers showed up, and then a couple of my deputies showed up. So maybe like 3 or 4, 5, something like that.
So after other officers arrived on the scene, were the individuals removed from the vehicle at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened after the vehicles were removed?
So we got all 3 of them out. We conducted pat downs and searches of their person due to the odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle. I started searching the vehicle, at which time I located a small amount of marijuana. It was like in the center, in the front where the cup holders are. So it would have been in between the driver and the passenger. So we continued to search the vehicle, at which time we located in the trunk, a black and color Glock 23. So I went ahead and detained all 3 males due to the marijuana and the Glock being found in the trunk. I separated all 3 males and read them Miranda, and none of them wanted to speak to me without an attorney present. So I went ahead and detained all 3 of them and checked their criminal histories, and all 3 subjects are convicted felons. Lopez has been convicted of kidnapping in Clayton County. Torres has been convicted of hijacking a motor vehicle in Fulton County, and Will Wright's been convicted of armed robbery in Clayton County.
So after you checked their criminal history and got that information, what happened then, Deputy?
I placed all 3 of them under arrest due to none of them wanting to talk to me about the firearm and the marijuana in the vehicle. So I took the marijuana and the firearm, went ahead and transported all 3 of them to the jail. When we got to the jail, during the pat downs inside intake, Will Wright was acting when they were trying to get him to spread his legs to check him really good. He didn't want to spread his legs. So at that time, we went ahead and I made the decision to go ahead and dress all 3 of them out. So we took all 3 of them to the back, and during the dress out, Will Wright had a meth pipe between his butt cheeks, and when we saw it, he just handed it to us, and it had a little bit of meth in it. And then also Mr. Lopez had a bag of meth between his butt cheeks. When they told him to squat and cough, it fell out.
Now, at that time, had anyone given them permission to enter the jail with the narcotics or the glass pipe?
No, ma'am. After searching them and placing them under arrest, prior to putting them in the cars, I gave them multiple opportunities, asked them if they had anything concealed on them to go ahead and tell us, and they all 3 stated that they did not have anything.
And how were you able to determine that this substance appeared to be meth?
One, I field tested it after the fact, after I got it. But also, I've made multiple meth cases, probably 100 or more. And so I'm able to identify the substance just based off what it looks like.
And the field test came back positive?
Yes, ma'am.
Did all this take place in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, we'll start with, let's just do alphabetical. Lopez.
I think that's Mr. Rose. All right.
Okay, Attorney Rose.
Are we ready? May I cross?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it Deputy Bradford?
Deputy, Sergeant. I've been promoted in the last couple months. Sure.
Right.
Either one's fine. It doesn't matter.
It's okay. I'll just refer to you as Deputy Bradford. So Deputy Bradford, you had your initial encounter with this vehicle involved a cigarette being thrown outside of its window, correct?
Yes, sir, for littering.
Were you directly behind the vehicle?
I was, yes, sir.
And were both vehicles at a traffic light or something?
We were when they threw the cigarette out, we were driving.
Okay. So both vehicles were driving. You were just directly behind the vehicle.
Yes,
and
sir.
A cigarette was ejected from the window of the Altima.
Yeah, I saw his hand come out of the window, and he actually threw the cigarette out. And then once I made contact with him, he did state to me that he did throw the cigarette out when I questioned him about it.
Okay. And this was out of the driver's side window?
Yes, sir. It was Mr. Lopez.
Okay. And then at that point, you initiated your traffic lights, or sorry, not, your emergency lights, and stopped the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. When you approached the car, you approached on the driver's side?
You broke up a little bit, but did you say, did I approach on the driver's side?
Right. Did you approach?
Yes, sir. I approached on the driver's side.
You first encountered Mr. Lopez?
Yes, sir. I made contact with the driver first.
Okay. And did you first ask Mr. Lopez to get out of the car?
No, I didn't remove anybody from the vehicle until another deputy arrived on scene due to there being 3 of them and 1 of me.
Okay. So his window was down and you were seeing Mr. Lopez through the window.
You said his window was down and what? So I'm sorry, you're breaking up some.
I apologize. You were speaking with Mr. Lopez through the window?
Yeah, he had rolled the window down. I was just talking to him from the door through the window.
Okay, and you claim that there was an odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle during this conversation?
I don't claim, sir, but there was, yes, sir, there was an odor of marijuana coming out of the vehicle.
Okay. It's your testimony that there was marijuana, an odor coming from the vehicle. And it was at that point when you decided to call for other backup.
Yeah, I called for another unit because I knew that we were going to search the car based off the probable cause of the odor of marijuana.
Okay.
I actually did take the marijuana that was located in the vehicle and place it into evidence.
Great. I was going to ask about that. So the marijuana, first of all, just to go back, the marijuana was found in the cup holder of the vehicle, right?
It was.
Was it inside a container?
I believe it was. I don't remember what type of container it was. I don't remember off the top of my head, but if I recall, it was in some sort of container.
Okay. Was it at least inside of a bag?
No, it was just in a container, if I recall correctly.
Okay. So when you seized this marijuana, did you take the whole container with it?
I did. I took whatever, if it was in something, I took whatever it was in.
Okay. Was this marijuana ever weighed?
I believe, let me see. I've got it on my phone. I got all my pictures saved. I do believe it was, but it was less than a gram. I mean, it was like a gram of marijuana. It was misdemeanor amount.
Okay. Less than a gram of marijuana.
Yes, sir. It was in like a little clear container, almost like an old film container.
Okay.
They used to put the camera film in. I thought that was like similar to that.
I see in your warrantless arrest affidavit that you never charged Mr. Lopez with any sort of possession of marijuana. Could could you tell me why that is?
I didn't charge anybody with the marijuana. I just took it for evidence because it was located in the vehicle. I chose not to because it's officer discretion not to charge anybody, but I took it, placed it into evidence due to the odor and it being located in the vehicle between them. And also while speaking with them telling me that they did smoke marijuana in the vehicle.
So they told you that they smoked marijuana in the vehicle.
They did.
Okay. I believe I remember it being your testimony during direct examination that my defendant chose not to speak with the police about that.
This was prior to them being under arrest. This is when I questioned them about the odor of marijuana at the window. This was just me saying, hey, I can smell the odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle. Is there anything in the vehicle? And him saying no, but I did smoke marijuana in the car.
Okay. Okay. So according to this, just to summarize, you approached the vehicle, you smelled marijuana, you asked them about the odor of marijuana, and they had said that there is no marijuana in the vehicle, but they had smoked marijuana previously in the car?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. All right, and when the Forest Park police arrived and you ended up searching the vehicle, you eventually decided to search the trunk as well, correct?
I did.
Okay, was there something you were looking for in particular in the trunk?
Yeah, narcotics, because I smelled the odor of marijuana.
But at that time, you'd already seized the marijuana.
What we had found, but that didn't mean that there wasn't more in the vehicle.
But your basis for the search was for the odor of marijuana.
That's the probable cause to search the car.
Yes. Did you smell any marijuana emitting from the trunk of the vehicle?
Yes. Whenever you smoke marijuana in the vehicle, it goes throughout the whole vehicle. So therefore, yes, we did smell it coming from the trunk.
Okay. Moving forward to booking, Mr. Lopez was transported to the central booking station, and upon being searched there, you had testified that the Mr. Wright was being obstinate and spreading his legs for a search.
Yep.
Why? Is there a reason why you took Mr. Lopez to dress him out?
Yeah, because anytime they're involved with drugs, we always dress them out. Anytime there's drugs in the vehicle, they're charged with drugs, or believed to be having something on their person, they're dressed out. That's why.
Okay. Is there any surveillance or any person that could corroborate what you testified to in terms of a bag of methamphetamine?
Well, I saw it fall from your client's rear end when he spread his butt cheeks, and also the detention officers that were in there also saw it.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Was there anybody else? So there were detention officers.
Yep, they conducted a report on that as well.
Okay. But was there also any sort of camera footage around?
We don't have cameras where they dress people out. we strip them butt naked. We don't have camera systems there.
I understand that. Just asking. Meanwhile, going back to the initial stop, the car, was there any audio recording or video recording of the encounter or of the search?
Not from me. I don't. Forest Park, when they got there, they have body cameras, but can't tell you if they're active or not because they don't work for me.
Okay. Those are all my questions for this witness.
Okay, Attorney Lewis.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sergeant Bradford, I think you indicated that. Yes, sir. That you have been working with Clayton County
Wait,
since.
one second. There's an echo.
Because it means that the YouTube, I didn't mute it. Hold on 1 second. I gotta get up there. That's interesting because it is muted. Does someone have something going on? Is there another device hooked up somewhere? Is someone watching himself on YouTube? That has to be what's happening. If you're watching yourself on YouTube, just mute it. Just mute it. Because I mute myself when I'm on.
Well, it just started, Judge.
I know. It's got to be coming from you, Attorney Lewis. Hold on, I'm gonna test this out. Okay, it is you because as soon as I muted you, I didn't hear it anymore.
I'm not sure what it is. Can you, because it's not echoing when anyone else speaks, but there's nothing that's going on in my room.
I don't know what else is going on. Okay, as long as you're talking, I hear it. But watch. When I mute you, I don't hear it anymore.
What do you hear?
I don't know what kind of reverber. So that means I can't talk as long as you are talking.
Okay, well, I won't say anything objectionable. How about that?
Let's see how long that lasts. Go ahead, Counselor.
Okay. Sergeant, you indicated that you have been in Clayton County since September of 2019, but it sounds like you've been an officer for longer than that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you indicated that Mr. Wright, Mr. Lopez, and Mr. Torres invoked their Miranda rights, but you also indicate that Mr. Wright, Mr. Lopez, and Mr. Torres did give a statement to you indicating that they were smoking marijuana in the vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes, so that was prior, like I was explaining to him, that was just when I encountered the driver and was speaking. That was prior to anybody being out of the vehicle, anybody being detained or under arrest. And Mr. Wright, I never spoke to Mr. Wright about that. When I did detain him prior to finding the firearm, and they thought that it was just the marijuana, all three of them stated that the marijuana was theirs because they thought that they were just going to jail for the marijuana. But as soon as I found the firearm and read a Miranda and tried to talk to him, nobody wanted to talk.
Okay. Other than speaking about the marijuana being theirs, let me start with Mr. Wright. Did Mr. Wright say anything else to you during your encounter with him from beginning all the way until to the meth pipe at the end? Did he make any statements?
I did. I mean, I spoke with him. We were talking back and forth about different things. They indicated to me that it wasn't theirs. just based off Mr. Wright became pretty irritated at the driver. The same with Mr. Torres. When the firearm was located, they all became irritated towards him and were making comments about, he's not going to claim it and stuff like that. But Mr. Wright never claimed the firearm, never said anything else about any in the car being his.
Okay.
As far as that goes.
Now, the actual vehicle itself, did you ascertain who was the actual owner of the vehicle?
So it was out of Arizona. And I don't remember off the top of my head who the vehicle came back to, but I do know when I was speaking with the driver, when I made my encounter with the driver, Mr. Lopez had stated that he came from Arizona to Georgia to visit Torres and Wright.
Okay. But
So
certainly,
based off that, I'm going to assume he either rented the vehicle or it's his vehicle.
But certainly it is uncontested that Mr. Wright is not the registered owner of that vehicle, correct?
Not to my knowledge, no, he's not the registered owner of that vehicle.
And from the time, at least, that you saw the cigarette being flipped out of the vehicle, Mr. Wright was not in control of the vehicle. Is that also correct?
He was not driving. He was in the back seat.
Okay. And Mr. Wright never indicated that he had ever been in control of the vehicle or had ever owned the vehicle. Is that also correct?
No, he did not. He never stated any of that.
And you don't have any evidence at this point that Mr. Wright was ever in possession of the keys to the vehicle. Is that correct?
No, sir. I never questioned Mr. Wright. Just based off of Mr. Lopez being the driver, I didn't question either of the other two about that being their vehicle.
Okay. When you open the trunk of the vehicle, other than the weapon, were there any other items of clothing in the vehicle?
Yeah, the gun wasn't in plain view. It was under some like boxes and clothes. I don't remember what clothes, but just like miscellaneous clothes. It was up under the clothes.
And there was nothing that you could determine that belonged to Mr. Wright that was in the trunk of the vehicle. Is that correct?
I didn't question anybody as far as anybody's belongings. So, I mean, I couldn't tell you that for sure. I just didn't.
Well, let me ask you this. I'll be more specific, Sergeant. There was no identification that was in, for example, in a book bag that was in the trunk of the vehicle that was close in proximity to the weapon. Is that correct?
No, sir. There wasn't.
Were you the actual officer that found the weapon?
No, that was Deputy Vivez.
All right. Were you standing near that deputy when he was going through the trunk to
Yes,
find
sir.
that?
I was watching them search the trunk.
And your vantage point was, you were, I guess, right next to the trunk?
I was just behind the car. I wasn't
Yes, sir.
like right next to it, but I was just behind the car watching them search the trunk.
And what you described is that deputy having to go through several layers of boxes and clothes in order to view that weapon, correct?
I know it was up under clothes. Picked up some
Okay.
clothes, and that's where it was located.
Okay. Earlier on, I think you indicated that there were some boxes as well as clothes.
There was a box or maybe two boxes in the trunk, but I don't know that the gun was under the boxes. It was under the clothes.
And you've indicated that you did not take out a warrant for the possession of marijuana less than an ounce. Is that correct?
No, I mean, it was such a small amount that I chose not to charge any of the three, but I did take the marijuana
Okay.
and placed it into evidence.
Now, the weapon itself, was that weapon taken to CSI in order to be fingerprinted?
It was placed into evidence, and they're gonna do an ATF trace on the weapon. And as far as fingerprints, I can't tell you that as of now. I don't know, but I did place it into evidence so that they can conduct an ATF trace on it.
And when you say that, meaning to see if that gun is stolen, where that gun was maybe registered
To
to?
see if the gun was stolen, registered to, or if it's been involved in any shootings or crimes, just since the gun was purchased.
Now, let's now go to the jail, and I'm speaking specifically about Mr. Wright. You indicated that he had what you've described as a meth pipe between in his butt, basically, right?
Yes, sir. There was a small glass, like a clear glass meth pipe with burn marks and white meth residue, white crystal-like residue inside the pipe.
All right. Was this the type of meth pipe that had a bulb at the end, or was it just the glass pipe itself?
It had the bulb at the end.
Okay. And so the part, if you can just describe for me, what is the part that you use to field test that tested positive?
So just take a Q-tip and actually scrub inside the pipe and then field test the substance on the Q-tip.
Okay.
You can
Now,
scrape
I know that you may not be an expert in this field, and if you can't answer this question, you can just say, I don't know. Do you know if there's enough residue that remains in the pipe for the crime lab to be able to test for methamphetamine, if you know?
Yes, sir. I mean, I don't know how much it takes, but I know that I sent the pipe to the GBI with everything that was still left in it.
Okay.
I just don't.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
The crime lab take.
Okay. Anything, ADA Freeman, do you have a redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any witnesses for either one of the defendants? Defendants?
No, Your Honor, not for Mr. Lopez.
Okay.
Not for Mr. Wright, just brief argument.
All right. Argument?
State waives opening.
Okay, let's start in the same order that you presented. Attorney Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor. I argue that this was a basically unlawful search. If we were going to go straight to the alleged gun that was found in the trunk, with the stop and the smell of marijuana, the officer had probable cause to search for the marijuana in the car, which the officer indeed found, apparently, and it was only a very small trace amount. According to the testimony, there were statements that the occupants in the vehicle had been smoking in the car prior, which would, demonstrate, or well, not demonstrate, but exemplify that, yeah, there might be a smell of marijuana coming from the car. But when we talk about the trunk, I believe, well, I mean, it's just apparent to me that with a trunk, which is basically a whole kind of like boxed in area in the back of the vehicle, the smell of marijuana permeating from the I guess the innards of the car where, passengers and the driver are to the trunk is very unlikely. And I would also argue that, the witness, Officer Bradford, had found the marijuana already. He had found what he was looking for. To then go above that and try to search the trunk without something like a warrant, without an actual reason to search the trunk, again, because he had already found the drugs that he was looking for, I believe that would be just an unlawful search, and the items found in the trunk should be basically excluded, and that my client, Mr. Lopez, should not be charged for that gun. Further as well, because Mr. Lopez was booked largely because of that firearm that was found in the trunk, because the other charges are misdemeanors, really. The alleged methamphetamine that was found after dress out on Mr. Lopez really should be excluded as well. There really was no reason for Mr. Lopez to have even been booked, to have been taken to jail, just because of a bad search of a trunk where there were no drugs found in the trunk, and the officer had no reason to search the trunk for drugs. So for those reasons, we ask that the charge for possession of a firearm by a felon and the drug charges, the possession and the crossing the guard line, be dismissed, we submit on the testimony for the other charges.
The littering and the defective brake light.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Attorney Lewis?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I will submit on the issue of the VGCSA and the crossing the guard line. I would only ask that the court take into consideration the
You don't have
issue.
to. You don't have to.
Okay, thank you.
You don't have to. I've heard enough on the weapon. Your client was a passenger in the vehicle. Equal access would apply had he been in the weapon been in the body of the car, but in the trunk of the car, your client's not going to be imputed to have knowledge of or possession of a weapon that he does not have ownership of a vehicle that he's a passenger in. So that's gone. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Counselor. So it looks like what you're doing, basically, Attorney Lewis submitted everything except for the case charge I'd already made a decision on. So it looks like your argument would only be to Attorney Rhodes, basically to the unlawful search of the trunk of the car.
And Your Honor, my argument is that Deputy Bradford smelled the marijuana, and he testified that smell can go through the entire car. And so it is our argument that at this stage, one, that the argument regarding whether or not the search was legal or not will be in Superior Court, but for purposes of probable cause, we believe that the testimony submitted by Deputy Bradford is sufficient to bind the case over for probable cause.
I agree. Let me say this to you, Attorney Rhodes. I'm very interested in if there's a legal premise or a legal reference that you can give the court that submits this argument that if there's something you smell an odor in the body of the car, that the officer cannot search the trunk of the car. I need something from you. I need more than just, I believe it doesn't sound right. I believe it should be this way. Some of the things that we believe and we opine are not based on law. If you can give me some law, you know how I am. If you give me a case law, give me a citation, give me something for that argument, then I'll consider it. But for purposes of today's hearing, I'm going to find probable cause for your client on all 5 charges that he's looking at. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Your
the Sergeant Bradford be excused.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you. All right, thank you, Attorney Lewis. Thank you. I think.
Thank you.
Correct?
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir. Okay, so we have Baker. And is that your client? Attorney Rhodes?
Which
Baker. Okay, that's Jason Baker and Officer Gator.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard, who I'm thinking to myself, goodness gracious, we told him 10:30.
I know.
Okay, all right, so then we're gonna start the Baker. I haven't had time to sign anything, so all my paper is just over here.
See, I was just about to ask if we could see his video. All right.
Okay, right there, hold on, let me get the file. Jason Baker. All right, let me swear you in, sir. Gator.
So,
We don't have the inmate yet, Judge.
Oh, dang. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, he can still be sworn in.
Right, okay.
Okay, are you ready, sir?
yes, ma'am.
Do you swear from the information you give, any testimony provided in the matter of the state versus Jason Baker is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Sir, what is your name? Your name is?
The jail is
muted.
Jason
Is
Baker.
it- Sir?
Jason Baker.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Officer Gator, please tell us your name and how you're employed.
I'm Officer Brian Gator, employed with the Clayton County Police Department.
How long have you been with the Clayton County Police Department?
I've been employed with them about 2.5 years now.
And sir, were you working on February 25th of 2019?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
On that particular day, officer, were you dispatched to 7242 Georges Way in Morrow, Georgia, in reference to a domestic disturbance?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
When you arrived at that location, did you make contact with a Natisha Youngblood?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What did Ms. Youngblood indicate that happened on that day?
When I got there, she was standing outside. The front door of the house was wide open. When I walked into the house, you could tell that something had happened in there. Everything was kind of moved around. There was a lot of things thrown across the floor. She said that she had just gotten into a fight with her boyfriend and that he had taken her car. Their child was in the home. And the child was still crying, still kind of, I guess, distraught from whatever had taken place. Ms. Youngblood, her clothes were kind of disarranged. Like you could tell that she had been in a struggle and she had a couple of scratches on her neck. And she told me that they had gotten into some type of argument about money of some sort, and that she had asked Mr. Baker to leave the home. And she said she started to pack up his belongings, trying to encourage him, or I guess urge him to go. And I guess he got upset at that point, and then he came at her. They started to fight in the house, and him being a bit bigger or stronger than her, he got the better of her. And he was able to get hold of the keys to the car, which is her brother's vehicle. And he took the keys to the car and he fled the home before she can call police.
And let's go back, Officer Gator. Did Jason Baker reside at this location with Miss Youngblood at the 7242 Georges Way? Yeah, officer.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I think he just froze.
I know. It's like watching a movie where people just disappear on you or something. Officer Gator, like yelling at him is going to make him move.
I know.
Well, and now we wait for there to be movement.
Officer Gator.
And he's gone. Maybe he's trying. Nope, he's gone.
They have to come back in.
Right. I'll wait for him to come in.
Okay.
Okay. Nope. Nope.
And I think Investigator Ponder is also trying to reach him to see.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like we're having some kind of unsteady connectivity today.
Mm-hmm.
That's from. Even you were going out at one particular point, Attorney Rose.
Sorry.
That's the first time I saw that happen on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, if you don't mind, could I actually just use this time to go to a breakout room to speak with my client briefly?
Absolutely. Let me send you, let's see. Hold on one second. Let me figure out where I'm going to send you. You can go to breakout room. All of them are open. Do you want me to just bring him? I'll bring him breakout room 3.
I'm assigned to 1 right now.
You're in 1? Okay, then I'll bring the jail. The jail's at 1 too. You're both in breakout room 1.
Okay, I'll just go there.
Someone at the jail? Can you have Mr. Baker join breakout room 1, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, if you want to take another break, Ms. Freeman, this is going to be a long day.
I know.
It's going to be a long day. You want to take another break? I don't know that we'll have a break to eat. That's what I do when we don't see me anymore. You see my profile.
Mm-hmm.
Water. I'm trying to eat a piece of apple and.
Right. I have some cheese and crackers. I have my ginger drink that I drink, and so.
I'm gonna come off YouTube. I just saw that on YouTube. I'm gonna come off YouTube.